shape to take a step out. Get some air now, let your edge out. To some iceberg, you'll be heavy in my mind. Can you get the heck out? I need rest now, got me.
What is up, you guys? So many people have asked me to make a tutorial on the badge reels, so let's get into it. Let's start with supplies and everything you'll need. First, you're going to need gloves, something to protect your hands, a silicone mat, your blanks, your decals, or whatever vinyl you're using. The badge reel, this specific one is an alligator clip. That's what I prefer. Whatever color glitter you'd like to use. Your UV resin, I like to use Mr. Resin. Medicine cups, stir sticks. The clip and the beads here are optional. That's for if you want to add beads onto the badge reel here. You're going to need a silicone tip tool to spread the resin, a heat gun or a torch to pop your air bubbles. You're also going to need a UV resin lamp, and this is optional, but this is how I sand my blanks. It is a nail drill. Designing your blank is going to be different depending on what blank you're using. Here I am using this kind of mouse shaped blank, and I want it to have a stitch face on it. So I went on Etsy, I purchased this file of the blank face, and I'm kind of editing it so that it's going to fit onto the shape of the blank that I already have. So I'm just kind of cropping it, making it fit onto the blank, and then I'm adding the ears, adding the shapes to adjust as needed to make it the desired shape that I want. When you're working with these acrylic blank files, you're always going to have two images on top of each other. You're going to have the actual blank size, and you're going to have your design surface size. I am using the design surface size. So you're going to see in a second, I'm going to hover it over this black part, which is the actual size and shape of the acrylic itself. Now that we've got the top part of the acrylic blank done, we're going to start on the badge buddy. The badge buddy is what the actual badge hangs on top of, and then below your badge you see your title and whatever design that you want it to have. This is the extended version because I prefer to use it because on my badge I have a lot of stuff that I have behind my badge, so I want extra length to show my actual design that I want without covering up my actual badge. So here you see I'm just separating all of the parts. I'm changing the colors to what it's actually going to be. I typically change the back color to whatever glitter color that I'm going to use. Now, because I want this to be a stitch and a cow theme, we're going to head over to my favorite site, Creative Fabrica. We're going to search for a cow print digital paper. I'm just searching through them all and finding one that I like. You're then going to click whatever one you want, and you're going to upload it to Design Space so that you can add it onto the front of your badge buddy. To upload the digital paper you just downloaded, you're going to hit the upload button, browse, and it will either be in your downloads. I typically save everything to my desktop just so it's easy to find. Because the image is transparent, since you can see that like purple background, there's nothing that we have to kind of digitize out, so the image is ready and able to just be uploaded. Because it's just one solid color, you can save it as a cut image or print then cut. It doesn't really matter. If it was multicolored, you have to save it as print then cut. So then I'm just uploading it to the actual page that I'm working on, and then I'm going to resize it. Once you have everything resized, you're going to take the top part, what you are designing on for the badge buddy. Remember, the blue part that we changed the color to, that you see above, is what is actually going to be glittered. So consider that the back side of the blank. We're working with the top part where we want the design and decal and name badge to go. So I'm going to duplicate a copy, hover over both of those once it's resized how I like, and slice it. Take what you just sliced, and then you're going to add it on top of the clean copy. Once you have it hovered over how you like, the next important step is to use your alignment tool. So I'm going to highlight both of them, align, and then center. This makes sure everything is centered since it can kind of be off. You just want it to look as perfect as possible. Since I don't want that background actually purple, we're going to go up to the color changing tool and change it to white so that it actually looks like cow print. I'm going to highlight both of those, and you can either group or flatten it at this point. I'm going to delete everything that I don't need. Move this bottom piece. Remember, that is what's going to be glittered. Hover it on top. Make sure everything fits. Where you see that blue is where you're going to see the glitter show through. Now I am going to take these little cow stitch logos that I purchased off of Etsy, and I'm going to make them smaller so that they can be kind of similar to the size of the actual badge buddy. I want it completely filled with this stitch logo, so I'm going to make it small enough to where I can fit multiple ones on there. So you're going to see me decreasing the size, lining it up at the bottom so that I can duplicate the image and then add a couple more on there. You're going to add a text box, and you're going to type in whatever job title that you want for this specific badge buddy. I wanted this retro font, so you are going to see me resize it so that it fits the width of the badge buddy. Since it is already such a busy design on there, I wanted the wording to be able to pop. You're going to see me change the top layer to white. Then I'm going to use the offset tool to create a border around the word nurse so that it makes it pop. I like the black, but I wanted it to pop even more, so I changed it to blue, but that wasn't good enough, so I added another border using the offset tool, made it a little bit bigger than that light blue, and then I added another one, and then you're going to change it to dark blue. So it's kind of like an ombre of colors, starting with white, a lighter color, and then your darker color. It's going to give it kind of a neon effect. Once that's done, you're going to remove that background that's going to be glittered because you're not actually printing that. You're just using it for size and color reference. I'm going to highlight everything that I placed on that image, and I'm going to flatten it so that it moves as one solid image. Out of all the steps, prepping is your most important step. This is why so many badge rails pop off, why your top coat isn't staying on, because you're not properly prepping your acrylic blanks. Think about when you go to the nail salon and you get your nails done. What do they do to your nail before they apply the acrylic? They sand it so that it has a surface to adhere to. If you look at these blanks, they're very shiny and smooth. So using this handheld drill, I'm able to create a rough surface for the glitter and the UV resin to stick to. Once you're properly sanded, we're going to move on to the fun part. That's adding your glitter. You're going to take your medicine cup and add in some UV resin. I like to use Mr. Resin. Add in whatever glitter. This specific glitter that I'm using is from Michaels, but you can use any glitter. Chunky, fine, it doesn't matter. You're going to stir so it gets to this type of consistency. Now, I am moving fast because I am used to doing this. You want to go slow with this process. The UV resin kind of adheres to itself and it will level out on its own, but if you move too fast, it will go over your blank and you will have a complete mess. So slow and steady is better to apply your glitter. There are many different ways to apply the glitter to the back. I just prefer to mix it directly into my UV resin. Some people say that it uses too much resin. It's personal preference, whatever you like. Once that's done and set, I let it sit for a few minutes, then I hit it with my heat gun. This is to pop any air bubbles. If you cure it while it has air bubbles in it, you will see those air bubbles. So sometimes I use the heat gun or sometimes I use my torch. You're then going to cure it for 60 seconds. I do this about 2 to 3 times. Now let's move on to the decals. Typically the acrylic blanks are going to come with this kind of protective paper over it. So once I'm done glittering and curing the back, I peel off that protective lining, flip it over, and then I cure that for another 60 seconds. At this point is when you would start prepping your vinyl or whatever decal you're using. I am using Print and Cut, so I am putting a laminate sheet because I wanted it to sparkle on top. So you're going to lay your laminate sheet on there, load it into the machine, and let the Cricut cut it. Alright, now that you're all laminated, if you so choose, it's time to apply your decal or vinyl to your blank. So you're going to apply the decal or the vinyl to the opposite side of what was glittered. So you want to be applying your decal to the smooth side, okay? I'm making 2 of these, so I'm just adding it to both of them. So you see I kind of line it up. You can use transfer paper. It's up to you. It's just easier for me to just use my tweezers, but you're going to do whatever is best and easiest for you. I apply the vinyl or the decal for the Badge Buddy a little differently so that I can pick it back up if I misalign it when I try to place it down. I only peel back a little bit of the backing, line that up, press that part down, and then I use my squeegee tool to peel the paper back and then press the decal down until it's completely flat with no air bubbles onto your Badge Buddy. Technically you could be done at this point, but I still chose to put the UV resin over the laminate just for longevity of the blank. You're going to especially want to cover it with UV resin if you're using just plain vinyl with no laminate on top because it's not waterproof at that point. Hit it with your heat gun and then you're going to cure it for 60 seconds. Once it's done curing, you're just going to give it one last look over and feel and make sure everything's smooth and cured. Let's move on to the beads and adding it onto the badge reel. Adding the beads at this point is optional, but if you choose to do so, you're going to extend the black string on the reel as much as you can. Use the clip to wrap the string around so that it's secure because we are going to be cutting the bottom piece of the badge. If it's not hooked onto something, the reel will just retract on itself. So here is the part that we're going to cut. You're going to try and get that tiny little black string to come out of the hole at the end of the reel. Sometimes if I can't get it, I just end up cutting it at the top right there. That is perfectly fine too. You're not losing much of the actual reel, so it's not that big of a deal. You're then going to pry that extra piece out as best as you can. I'm using the weeding tool. You can use anything that's sharp. You can use a paper clip even to kind of wiggle it out of there. Once you're able to wiggle it out, you are going to add your beads at this point. A lot of people like to use 12 millimeter size beads. I sometimes use 20. It just depends on the kind of design that I'm going for and the look that I'm going for. These are 20 millimeter beads. So you're going to place them on the string however you want. Once they're placed on there, then you're going to work on getting that string back into the part that you actually cut. So sometimes if it's frayed at the end too much, you're going to have to snip it a little bit. Sometimes I snip it at an angle just to make it easier for reinsertion. You're going to stick it in as far as it will go and use whatever tool, sharp tool that you were using to be able to pull it out through that corner. This is how you're going to tie it so that it doesn't fall through once you're done. Once you're able to get it out, you're going to pull as much as you can and then you're going to tie that end. I usually end up tying it twice, double knot it real tight, and then this is where the torch or the lighter is going to come in handy because once I'm able to tie it really tight, I then take my torch and I torch the end of the part that I just tied just to make sure that nothing frays and that everything is kind of burnt together. Once everything's tied and put together, I do a little test to test the integrity of the badge. Now it's time to add the actual badge onto the real portion. So I use a little bit of UV resin. Some people use E6000, but I don't have time to wait for E6000 to dry. It is totally your preference. So I do also sand my badge reel. Like I was saying with your blank, you want to have a surface that it is going to adhere to. So I sand the actual reel that the blank is going to go on top of. Add your UV resin, cure it. I do hold it because as you see a little bit, it can move until it's fully cured. So you want to hold it in place. I do this for about 60 seconds. Once that's cured, I do it for about 60 seconds on each side. 60 seconds on the top, flip it over, 60 seconds on the bottom. That way you know that badge reel is not going to pop off at all. Once you feel like it's fully cured, you're going to inspect it one more time and then put your badge reel together. This is the cutest little design. Comment below and let me know what other characters or designs you want to see.
Safe to take a step out, get some air now, let your edge out. To some iceberg, you'll be heavy in my mind.